60 Minutes with Angela starts right now.
Now, where do I start from? The energy crisis, the shortage of fuel due to importation of substandard fuel in February this year of 2022. We have low supply of electricity or none at all in some areas. The effects of COVID-19 on the economy, criminality all over, insurgency, insecurity, food very expensive. These and more are just some of the problems and challenges faced by the administration of Nigeria's President Muhammadu Buhari, who will be 7 years as president in May this year, 2022. That means he's at the tail end of his second constitutionally allowed term as president. In 2015, when he campaigned for the presidency, he campaigned on the platform of a 3-point agenda, which was to fight corruption, tackle the economy, and create jobs as a result of that. And of course, end insecurity, or at least improve on the situation of Nigeria's insecurity. Now, has President Buhari delivered at least on the promises of his 3-point agenda? Femi Adesina, the special advisor to the president on media and publicity, joins me today on 60 Minutes, and he is speaking for the president. Thank you, Mr. Adesina, for coming back on 60 Minutes with me. It's been a while. We sat down to have a conversation.
Yeah, it's been a while, but it's always a pleasure talking to you. Thank you.
Thank you. So this is the morning after Mr. President has left for the United Kingdom for medical check. I thought it'd be a good place to start from. His statement at departure that the vice president will be in charge while he's away, affirmed what the Constitution actually prescribes. But of course, you know, many of his critics have latched onto that, saying, why did he have to reaffirm that the vice president is in charge? Is it that he didn't transmit in writing as required by the Constitution because he's only going for a short trip?
Thank you. There is no controversy in that issue as far as I'm concerned. There is an amendment to the Constitution which says that if a president is away for 21 days without transmitting power to the vice president, the vice president automatically
it kicks in.
Yes, as acting president. Okay. So there's no issue.
So those who don't know about the 21-day rule.
Yes, they're the ones making bones out of that. Otherwise, there's no issue.
All right. So we know that the president has done well in some areas, you know, except one wants to be funny about it. But what I want to know is this. The president's media team, led by yourself, what will you concede that he hasn't done well, considering his 3-point agenda when he was coming into office?
Thank you. What I would like to first say is that there is no government, no single government that will solve all the problems in the country. It doesn't happen. Not in the first world, not in the West, not in the third world, not anywhere. It doesn't happen that a government comes and solves all the problems of that country. The government will do its level best, and when its term expires, it will hand over to the next government to continue.
Yes.
That next government will not solve all the problems of the
Either.
country. It will do its best, and the cycle goes on like that. So he promised to secure the country, then he promised to revive the economy, and then to fight corruption. There are many other spin-offs of those three,
Yes.
but those are the major three. And 7 years down the line, in another 2 months, if you want to look at those three issues, there are some that he has succeeded to a large extent. There are some where he has succeeded very well. There are some that have question marks. Not for lack of trying,
Yes.
not for lack of effort, but because the challenges became multifarious and greater than was envisaged. Let's take them one by one. Security. When the president came in 2015,
Yes.
the major security challenge confronting the country was insurgency. That insurgency was in Northeast, it was in Northwest, it was in North Central, including Abuja. But when he came, we saw that he confronted it headlong. And after a matter of months, North Central was cleared, Northwest was cleared. Even in Northeast, it became located in just 3 states: Borno, Yobe, and Adamawa. To a large extent, Adamawa is cleared today. Yobe is cleared. The hub of that insurgency, which is Borno State,
Yes.
to a large extent has reduced. I don't know whether you saw a report that came out at the weekend showing that terrorism had reduced in Nigeria by 77%. It's an international report. An international report. I will make it available to you. That between 2020 and 2021, he gave the figures.
Yes.
Number of deaths in 2020 from insurgency. And then the number of deaths in 2021, it was like 470 to 120 something number of deaths. And he said it reduced by 77%. But you know that kind of thing will not trend in our country. It will not resonate because a lot of people they love bad news. So good news does not excite them. But it does not change the fact that that report came out. That tells you that, to a large extent, the problem of insurgency that President Buhari made in 2015 has been reduced, almost completely solved. If killings reduced by 77%, it's a lot. If you look at Borno, displaced people are returning to their communities.
What about those communities where Boko Haram had hoisted flags and prevented anything from going on, no schooling?
There is none today where flags are hoisted. Governor Babagana Zulum spoke some weeks back, which was interpreted by the media saying that 2 local governments were under Boko Haram control.
Yes.
But he came to clarify it. He clarified it right here in the villa when he came for our status press briefing.
Yes.
That what he meant was that those 2 local governments were not inhabited by the original inhabitants because they were scared to return.
To come back.
That the military was in those 2 local governments. Boko Haram does not occupy the local governments. So it's a matter of engendering confidence in the people to return home.
Yes.
So a lot has been done in insurgency. But you will see that the security challenges mutated somewhere along the line. banditry that we didn't know came in.
Yes, and that's what I call the new industries. Industry of kidnapping, ritual killing, abduction.
Exactly. All those were fairly strange to the country as of 2015. So those were new theaters of confrontation that the security agencies have to deal with. Banditry, ritual killings, kidnapping, all sorts. It stretched our security agencies to the limit. But the confidence is just as insurgency has been tackled and almost completely won. Yeah. That battle is almost completely won. The security agencies will not give up until peace returns totally to the country. Yeah. The Chief of Defense Staff was saying it over the weekend in a report I read that things are a lot better in the country.
Would that be because the security architecture changed, the president changed the personnel? Do you think that would have had an effect?
That could be part of it. But without detracting or reducing anything from those that left, they also did their level best. They took it up to a certain point, and the new people continued. If they didn't take it up to that point, the new people could not have
problems.
Yes, we have problems. So it's a continuum, and we are glad that things are a lot better than they used to be. So if insurgency has been tackled, I believe banditry will also be tackled. Just last week, there was this news item that within 3 days in Niger State, over 200 bandits were killed. Over 200 bandits were eliminated
within 3 days. What is the difference between bandits? Because there seems to be a standing joke, among Nigerians.
Yes.
Is there an official definition of who is a bandit and who is a terrorist? And
the terrorists have an ideology. Terrorists want to seize territory. Terrorists are against the government of the day. Bandits are just criminals. Bandits will not seize territory. They will not hoist flag anywhere.
Yes.
They will just kill, maim, seize property and all that. But they don't seek to establish a territory or a caliphate or anything. So that's a basic difference between bandits and terrorists.
All right. I remember that following the list of terror financiers sent to Nigeria by the United Arab Emirates, I'm still on Insecurity now, they had named and actually prosecuted 6 Nigerians and 32 others, they say, for allegedly financing terrorism. And I expected Nigeria to follow suit, to name and shame those that the federal government also knows to be involved in terrorism, at least following up on what the UAE had done. Why didn't we do so?
No, the Attorney General has responded to that. And I know that judicial process and things leading to it may be like the meal of the gods at times. It grinds slowly, but eventually it grinds very finely. And that is what will happen with those alleged financiers of terrorism. They will have their days in court. And the interest of government will not be naming and shaming. I've said this before. They began to abuse me when I said it.
Why don't you want to name and shame?
No. Naming and shaming is just to ridicule.
Right.
The government is not interested in that. It's just to bring them to justice. It's to bring them to justice.
But ridiculing is not
No. Ridiculing is not the interest of government. It's to bring them to justice.
And in bringing them to justice, we will know who they are.
Oh, anyway. Of course. Anyway, when they have their days in court, they will be known.
So this is March 2022, 14 months to the end of Buhari's 2 terms. If he couldn't really end this insecurity in 6 years and 10 months, what is the guarantee that he will do so in the remaining 14 months of his administration?
It takes me back to what I said earlier. No government solves all the problems in a country. Yes, the president would love to end it, and chances are that he will end it.
Yes.
Because our armed forces have never had it so good in terms of equipment, training, morale, and all that.
Yes.
When the administration came, the armed forces was like in tatters. They didn't have equipment. They didn't have platforms with which to fight the battle. But President Buhari has spent money, possibly in trillions, to re-equip the military. The Air Force that had just about 3 or 4 serviceable aircraft has over 40 now. And you also have the Super Tucano that were procured.
Yes.
And now you have attack helicopters of different types. Therefore, this administration will not leave the insecurity situation the same way it met it.
Right.
In fact, already 14 months to the exit now, the difference is clear, particularly by that report I told you, which says killings traced to terrorism and insurgency have reduced by 77%.
Join us again after the break. Welcome back. Okay, let's talk about the energy crisis. We'll start first with electricity. My research shows that the possible generation here in Nigeria is 15,000 megawatts. This administration inherited just over 2,000 megawatts from the Goodluck Jonathan administration. On a good day, they say fingers crossed, all things being equal, Nigeria averages 5,000 megawatts a day. That's what we have to actually use because of faulty transmission and unutilized megawatts. So we have our unutilized megawatts increasing every year due to transmission deficiencies.
And we're actually generating 18,000.
18?
Yes.
Now.
The Minister for Power said it last week. He addressed the press at the State House here. Nigeria generates 18,000 megawatts, but we can only distribute about 5,000. Yes.
Right. Okay, so we still have all that unutilized.
Yes.
That is not happening.
Oh,
but
yeah.
considering that transmission, the transmission aspect, remember the electricity sector was divided into generation, distribution, and transmission. Due to security reasons, the federal government has retained transmission. What is the federal government going to do to enhance that 5,000 we're all struggling with, especially if we have 18,000 megawatts to enjoy as Nigerians?
You know that there is also some sort of relationship with Siemens of Germany, which the first tranche of the money to kick off the
Power project.
Yes, has been paid. And within the lifetime of this administration, that project will come into effect.
Right.
So this government is not going to leave transmission at that same level, because once the Siemens project kicks off, then it will
Transmission will improve.
It will improve. The original projection was that by 2025, Nigeria would have a minimum of 25,000 megawatts. Okay. What we can achieve before this administration leaves is left to be seen, but it will start. And like I told you, the next government can always continue.
All right. So that's that on electricity. Now to the importation of substandard fuel. That happened earlier this year, February 2022. The president gave directives to relevant government agencies to take every step in line to ensure that we respect and protect consumers. So Where are we there? When will Nigerians see someone punished for that negligence? Because the companies that imported the off-specification PMS, as they like to call it, says that the NNPC tested and certified that cargo and that they followed all regulatory procedures and guidelines. And that sounds to everyone like someone dropped the ball somewhere. When are we going to see punishments? People's cars have been ruined from that fuel, and the queues are not abating, even though the Petroleum Honorable Minister for State, Petroleum Resources, has said people should be patient. There's enough stock, but we're still seeing
it's a patience game. As the last week, GMD of NNPC said we had 1.7 billion liters of fuel already in the country. Well, I also tell you that in the procedure of sending out this fuel and going around the country, there's a lot of sabotage. A lot of
when
sabotage.
you say sabotage, people stealing fuel?
No.
Diverting?
Some people just wanting to ensure that this crisis does not end.
Okay, because people always benefit
No,
from a crisis.
They profit from crisis. Yeah. So there is a lot of sabotage, but eventually they will not win. Yeah. Now to that part of your question, who dropped the ball?
Yes.
Definitely that will be unraveled. And what is to be done is not a presidency thing. Right. Mr. President, as president and minister of all, may need to sign off on it, but it is not a presidency thing to investigate. There is the industry, and there are structures in the industry to investigate.
I think people
and make
look towards
recommendations.
the presidency because they see the president as the minister, the substantive
minister
for petroleum
like I told
resources.
you, he will eventually sign off on whatever will be done. But he's not the one that
will micromanage the process.
And I would like the country to also remember that it was not the first time that
I was coming to that because your comment also riled a lot of people. You said heavens will not fall,
yes,
and sanity will be restored.
Yes.
In retrospect, do you think that was a provocative
No, it was
comment?
not. It was not. I first said it on channels, television, in an interview, and I repeated it in an article I wrote last week. That shows you that I stand by what I have said. Yeah. I'll say it tomorrow again. In fact, let me say it now. Heavens will not fall.
Yes.
From this fuel situation in the country. We will get over it, and things will improve.
This is the first fuel problem
under this administration. I would say the second. There was one in December 2015.
When you first came
when the government first came. In December 2015, it happened during Christmas season. It was a very bad scarcity. But from 2016 to 2022, it never happened again. And Nigeria has never had it so good, that long stretch without a crisis. Well, maybe in the 70s when everything was okay. But since we began to have issues with fuel supply and distribution in the country, this is the longest stretch in which we will have sanity in that industry. That's why I use the word snafu. Situation, normal, all fouled up. It was a normal situation which suddenly got fouled up. Yeah. Recall that under Sani Abacha, this adulterated fuel had been brought into the country before.
The one that had the odor.
And it was spoiling cars. Anybody whose car has been spoiled has my sympathy.
Because that's where I was heading to. It, when you said heavens will not fall, some said you are downplaying the economic effect.
No, it's not true. It's not true. There is also the Consumer Protection Council, who is planning to do something for those whose cars were spoiled and all that. Yeah. What Nigerians should realize is that we must count our blessings. And what do they say about small masses? We should appreciate the small masses we have. This is a country where fuel scarcity had not been an issue for about 6 years. and suddenly there was one and you began to shout as if it was a daily occurrence. No, it's not a daily occurrence. It has not happened for such a long time. And we should learn to appreciate what our government has done and what it will continue to do.
Right. Let's move from fuel crisis now to the Electoral Act. I mean, even the president's harshest critics have praised him for signing that Electoral Act. On the 22nd of February this year, 2022, a coalition of civil society organizations took to the streets to protest what they called alleged delay in signing the new Electoral Act by the president. The president had earlier declined assent, citing especially the recommendation that direct primaries for political parties should be included in the law. And his reason was genuine, you know, that it would cost a lot and who would shoulder the costs of that for the parties. Now, in signing this new revision, the bill was transmitted on January the 31st, I think, to the president. Did that affect the calendar of elections, forthcoming elections in 2023? Because that was one of the fears that a delay in signing would cause.
Well, the calendar that came from INEC
Yes.
had elections being shifted by a week.
A week,
Yes. But before the signing of the Electoral Act, the INEC chairman had even said there will be no crisis if it was not
That
signed.
we were still in good time.
Yes, no, that we were in good time, but even if it was not signed, there is an extant Electoral Act that will still be used.
Okay.
So all those who are making noise and going on protest, in a democracy is allowed. But if that final version of the Electoral Act was transmitted on January 31,
Yes.
the law gives the president a window of 30 days in which to assent or deny assent.
Yes.
So if they protested on February 22, they were just jumping the gun.
Because he still had a month.
Oh, yeah,
At least a week.
A week.
To go.
Yes, he had a week to go. And he signed, they protested on a Tuesday, I guess, and he signed on a Friday. His signing had nothing to do with the protest.
Yes.
He had made up his mind in-house. We knew that he was going to sign on that Friday.
So
that was why when I granted an interview a day before the protest, I said, the Electoral Act will be signed in a matter of hours,
Yes.
not days, not weeks.
Yes. Why do you think his critics were surprised that he signed it?
Well, they are the ones that can answer that question. But one thing I know is that people want to believe the worst about other people. They want to believe the worst. They don't want to give you any quarter at all. But President Buhari will do whatever is good for this country.
Not for his party or
No,
for himself.
No. Because when he first rejected the earlier version, which made, with limited primaries to direct,
Yes.
it will have affected all the parties. So it wasn't just about his party, APC. It will have affected every party. So he was being national in his thinking.
So from the Electoral Act to Constitution Amendment, I was listening to Governor Wike the other day. He says, the bills to promote female representation in governance failed because Buhari was not in support of the bill and he failed to coerce his party to support it.
Please, if you see the governor, ask him. He was emphatic that the Electoral Act would not be signed.
And it was.
And it was. So that answers that question.
Where does the president stand on the matter of the empowerment of women? Was he surprised that that aspect of the amendment failed?
It's a legislative matter. It's not an executive matter.
Yes.
And you can see how many women serve in this administration. the fact that even the finance ministry is held by a woman, very significant.
Yes.
There are 5 female ministers in this administration, and I think 4 of them are substantive ministers. Only one is Minister of State.
Yes.
And if you look into the parastatals, many, many women. I remember on International Women's Day last year, we issued a statement on Buhari's women.
Yes.
It was a long list. Very, very long list. Even at that, the list was not exhaustive. I think this year we will update that list.
Yes.
I say that the number of women in this administration is quite high. So it shows you that the president believes in women empowerment.
Is there any way the president can implore the members of the National Assembly to reconsider, even though it has failed, it's a legislative thing, but we know the president must sign that bill into law.
Yes.
Is there any avenue for him there, considering the First Lady attended?
Yes, but you also will note that the rapport between the president and the National Assembly is fantastic. It's fantastic. It has never happened in this country. Since we came back to the democratic rule in 1999,
yes,
all national assemblies had always been at loggerhead with the executive. This one, you can say it's a rubber stamp, but is collaborating effectively, efficiently with the executive. So, if that is an issue, and it is, I'm sure if the president raises it, if he will engage with them, they can look at it again.
Join us again after the break. Welcome back. Where does the president stand? Does he agree with or support the idea that the presidential ticket should be given to the Southeast, having not produced a president since 1999?
No, there is a zoning committee
within the
party, headed by the Kwara state governor. Okay, so when it submits its recommendations, and it becomes public, from
what they say there,
yes, from what they say there, you will know where the next president will come from, as far as APC is concerned.
Okay, and I know the president dodged that question, but I know you know I'm going there. Is there any inkling? I know you all talk about how the president has this mien, you can never read what direction he's thinking of going towards. Is there any inkling whatsoever from anyone in his cabinet who is leaning towards? Is he agreeable to the fact that they say him being a Muslim president, his successor should be Christian? Does he have any idea? Has he said anything about issues like that, on the religion, on the ethnicity?
You know that it does not even depend on the president now. It depends on his party. His party will determine where the candidate comes from, what religion he belongs to, and all that. Yes. It's not the president's prerogative. And what he said in that last interview was that even if he had somebody in mind, he would not mention that person. That they can go and eliminate him.
When he said eliminate, I thought, did he mean a literal elimination or conjuring up ways that this person will not emerge?
I think it's both.
Both.
It's both. It's both. It's both, because already if you think that this is the president's candidate, then others will just run in vain.
But you know what they say about democratic practice? They say a president must groom a successor. Yes. And an inability to announce a successor means that you haven't even prepared for when you leave office. No. In this kind of democracy we run, that is not work. It will not work. It will not work. You must create a level playing field for anybody, for everybody. And I'm sure that
Mr. President will not openly
Yes.
endorse anybody until after the primaries and the party has a candidate. Then that person becomes the president's candidate also.
Right. So for now, we still don't have any idea where he's leaning. So anyone who is out there claiming that, the president has given him a nod or a wink in any direction, it's not true.
Anybody can claim anything. Anybody can claim anything. But the President Buhari I work for, that I know,
Yes.
will not endorse anybody till after the primaries. When the party has a candidate, that person becomes the president's candidate.
Right.
He may listen to you when you come to say, I want to run. Yes. He will wish you well.
Yes.
But that does not translate to an endorsement.
So even when he takes your manifesto from you and
Oh,
reads it
yes.
and nods and smiles,
Yeah.
it's nothing special.
No, nothing special. He will not overtly, in his
Yes.
mind, he may know who he wants,
Yes.
but he will not overtly tell that person that I'll back you.
All right, now we talk about some foreign business. You guys have traveled a bit. 2 foreign trips I want us to talk about. Belgium, that was the 6th European Union, African Union Summit, February 17 and 18 in Brussels, this year 2022. The theme of that meeting was financing for sustainable and inclusive growth, climate change, and energy transition. The president seems to be very strong on climate change and environmental issues.
Very. We just came from Nairobi
Kenya.
a couple of days ago, and when he met with the executive secretary of the United Nations
UNEP, environmental program.
something on combating, is it desertification?
Yes.
We were in that meeting, and he was speaking to that person. That executive secretary said they will be visiting Nigeria March 10 as a prelude towards a conference they will have in Côte d'Ivoire in April. Well, President said March 10 he will not be in the country, but that his ministers and other people will receive them and collaborate with them. And he suddenly asked me, Chief Adesina, as he calls me, he said, Chief Adesina, when they come and they ask you, what is my attitude towards the environment, what will you say? And I said, Mr. President, I can confidently tell them that one of your strongest passions is on the environment, on climate, issues of climate and the environment. Mr. President is very particular. That is why you see that anything that has to do with climate and environment is always attending. We got to government when COP21 was holding. COP26 held in Glasgow last year. I think he has attended almost 4 or 5 of the 6 of conferences. It was one he was representing. Anything climate, President Buhari will be there. And he advocates for Africa and for Nigeria, particularly the Lake Chad, recharging of the Lake Chad.
Because I wanted to say, what is the main environmental challenge, or what are the main environmental challenges that we have that we can say is the result of climate change or global warming?
I think the greatest is the dwindling of Lake Chad. Lake Chad is said to be less than 1/3 of its size today, and 30 million people are affected by that. Farmers who don't have irrigation, again, fishermen the stock of fishes has been reduced, those who do animal husbandry that use that water. It has affected a lot of people in the Lake Chad Basin countries, 30 million minimum, and more than 10 million of those people are from Nigeria. And a lot of youths. Mr. President keeps telling the West that you see youths from Nigeria and other Lake Chad Basin countries, daring the Mediterranean to get to Europe, that it is one of the effects of the dwindling of Lake Chad. If Lake Chad was there, they will continue their lives. They will be occupied. They will be occupied. And of course, desertification is another one.
Yes.
Just in Nairobi, he gave an instruction to all the relevant ministries to collaborate with the United Nations agency,
Yes,
to combat desertification in Nigeria. He said all the 11 northern states that are prone to desertification should also collaborate with the Ministry of the Environment and the UN agency so that they can tackle the matter.
can those things be resolved? When I ask that, like this desertification, like the erosion we have in the southeast, I look at those things and sometimes think it's a fait accompli. There's nothing that can be done to stop them from getting worse.
Yeah, there are natural disasters, if you can call them like that.
Yes.
And there is always a solution to things like that. Let's talk of the Lake Chad issue, for instance. The most viable solution is what is called interbasin water transfer. There is the Congo River. From Congo River, they can pipe water into Lake Chad. Well, it's going to cost $30 billion. So the president says African countries cannot do it alone. They would need help from the West. So if the West is up and doing and decides that that project should be done, they will transfer water from Congo River into Lake Chad, and Lake Chad will return.
Expand.
Yes, it will return to its normal size, and at least 30 million lives will be affected positively. So there is always a solution.
All right, let's go to the Kenya conference now. What are the takeaways that we brought back from Kenya?
Yeah, it's a global thing. It's not just about Nigeria. It's a multilateral meeting.
Yes.
And what was it all about? United Nations Environmental Program at 50. In 1972, UNEP was established to take care of environmental issues. So that organization is now 50 years old. And it was felt that it was proper to celebrate what it has done and to envision what it can do in the future. One of the most significant resolutions from Kenya was to tackle the issue of plastics. You know, plastics are non-biodegradable,
Yes.
as they say. In fact, in Kenya, you needed to see a huge pile of plastics that they gathered there to show that plastic was a problem to the world.
You can't get rid of it.
You can't get rid of it. So the world has resolved to tackle the plastic issue. All those who
Pure water,
bottled water, everything, they need to find other containers that they will use, which are biodegradable. Once you throw them away, they can decay.
Yeah.
Plastics will never decay. You need to see what it has done to marine life.
Fishes.
Fish, exactly. And of course, some of those fishes will bite those plastics, swallow them. When they even catch some fishes, they still see plastics inside them, and it has its negative effects. So that's one significant takeaway from that conference in Kenya. And there are other resolutions that were arrived at to protect the environment. Like it is said, we don't have a planet B.
Yes.
This is the only planet we have, habitable by human beings. If we destroy that planet, where are we moving to? So every country must ensure that it takes care of this planet, because there's no planet B.
Yes. And now to the crisis between Russia and Ukraine. We've evacuated at least 4 batches of people that I know. Maybe there are more now by today. Max Air brought in about 416, Air Peace brought in another 183. But where exactly does Nigeria stand? Are we standing with Russia, or are we standing with Ukraine, or are we neutral?
No, that's not a question for me to answer. The Foreign Affairs Minister would answer that. And he has been speaking on Russia and Ukraine. So he's the best person to talk about.
Because I thought in evacuating our students, what plans? Are they going back to Ukraine? Will they be reschooled elsewhere?
Well, the most important thing was to bring them home.
Yes.
And they are here now. And you know, when they came, they were given some immediate rehabilitation to tide them over. I'm sure it will get to a point where decisions will be taken, whether they will return or go to other countries and all that.
In the evacuation, is the federal government making a distinction between those who are legally in Ukraine and that axis, or they're carrying anyone who
I think anyone who is Nigerian.
Okay.
Anyone who is Nigerian. It is the Ukrainian government or security forces that only allow people with valid papers to cross into safety.
But if those without valid papers want to come
as
with airpeace,
as long as they're Nigerians,
they will be carried
sure
without any penalty, any punishment.
Well,
right. On a lighter note, and just to sort of round up, let's touch quickly on COVID-19. We've been designated as one of 6 countries in Africa to be a vaccine manufacturing base for the COVID-19 vaccine. 4 countries had earlier been approved. What informed the addition of Nigeria to make 6?
I think it's a totality of how Nigeria has tackled COVID itself.
Yes.
You know that we first set up a presidential task force which ensured that everything about COVID was under control. That task force transmitted to the steering committee. It's now a presidential steering committee. And if you looked at projections for Africa, and Nigeria particularly, when COVID was first coming, you see that it didn't happen.
We thought we would have dead bodies on the streets.
It was even said that they'll be picking corpses from the roads. But it didn't happen. And I believe that God is the number 1 factor. Government is the number 2 factor. Government rose to the occasion. And private sector is also number 3 factor, because you had COVID, you had the business sector generating funds, setting up medical facilities for people who would go on quarantine and all that. So I think Nigeria did very well. Don't also forget that was it the not New Year, there was a broadcast where the president had indicated, I think it was October 1 last year, that Nigeria will be interested in
being a base
to manufacture vaccines. So I think the world also noted that, and Nigeria is one of the
How far
countries.
have we gone with vaccine penetration? Do we
very,
have the numbers yet?
No. The last I saw was 2.5 million, 2.5% of population.
Have they all got 3 vaccines, or some are still on 2, some are still at 1?
Some are still at 1, some are at 2. Some have not taken at all. I think the vaccine penetration needs to get a lot better in Nigeria.
Yes, but all in all, the COVID-19 issue, is it over?
No,
it's still
by no means. It's by no means over.
Yes,
we should still need to be careful. We should still.
Are all those protocols still being observed?
Yes,
masking,
yes,
hands?
yes. They are. At least they are still in force.
Yes.
They are still in force. You can't enter any government establishment without wearing your mask. The presidential task force reviewed the protocols.
Yes.
But the non-pharmaceutical ones are still fairly in place. You will also see that Europe particularly is relaxing.
Easing things
and it's because of the percentage of vaccination. If they don't have that percentage and they do all the relaxation, then they're asking for trouble.
It looks like there's something aiding us here that hasn't made it, the COVID thing, as bad as we saw in some of the first world countries.
Yes, they say so, that it could be the sunshine that we have here. It could also be that in our lives at one time or the other, we had treated malaria. And
so much
that we developed a natural immunity. Scientifically, I can't say, but they say that.
Yeah.
And but by and large, we thank God for the control that we witnessed in the country.
One of the articles your articles I read, and I thought I always wanted to ask about. You said, those who vilify President Buhari publicly still come for dinner at the villa.
Yes.
And I thought to myself, how awkward can that be?
I see them.
They're not prevented from
No,
coming,
I see them.
even after they lashed
I
the
see
president?
them. I watch them on television.
Yes.
There are some days in the evenings, I just go to greet the president at home, and I meet them at dinner with him.
After watching...
I've seen them on television abusing him. So that's the man for you. Liberal. There are some people you would think he would never greet when he sees them.
Yes.
He doesn't hold anything against anybody.
When he sees such people, does he make a joke about what they said?
Of course, naturally, he's full of wisecracks.
Yes.
He will tell them, I thought I had you abusing me in the morning. You know that they can't just walk in.
Yes.
They must request for appointment.
So he knows that this person who said this about me is coming.
Oh yes, without he saying, let him come, they can't come. And they are the ones who will request for appointment. So when they request for appointment, just says, let them come.
Yeah.
It shows you that there's malice towards nobody.
And finally, on the matter of corruption, I remember in the early days of this administration, one of the major criticisms against him was only people from the opposing parties were being chased by the anti-corruption agencies. How would you say President Buhari has done in terms of fighting corruption?
I'll just want you to be interested in how many people are in APC now that are standing trial. They are in APC, but they are standing trial. So it answers that question. President Buhari is not interested in vilifying anybody who is not his party member. You have questions to answer, you answer, irrespective of party.
And you've also said that even when you are a member of his party, just don't be caught putting your hands in the till.
In the till. President Buhari spares nobody when it is corruption. In fact, what he abhors most is corruption. Once there's an allegation against you, he gets it investigated. And once a prima facie case is proved against you, you go to court.
He's not very quick to move against you until the investigation says something.
He would not. He doesn't listen to tales. He doesn't do knee-jerk responses. If there is an allegation against you, quietly, he was being investigated. I know somebody that was investigated for over 6 months, and it was when that report was submitted by the president.
And that 6 months, the person will be coming to work.
The person will even come in to see him and come in to brief him.
And the president will never give anything away.
He would never give anything away until the result of the investigation will come. That was the time he would then act.
Thank you very much, Mr. Adesina, for having us in your office. And I hope to be back again at least a few more times before you leave office.
You're always welcome in this office because whatever I say, you will transmit it faithfully.
Yes.
That's why I love talking to you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, my pleasure.
And thank you for watching. I'm Angela Ajetunmobi.